Welcome to episode 219 of CppCast, the first podcast for C++ developers by C++ developers. I'm your host, Rob Irving, joined by my co-host, Jason Turner. Jason, how's it going today?
I'm all right, Rob. How are you doing?
Doing okay. Here it's pretty cold over for you, though, right?
Yeah, it's officially cold. It doesn't really matter what unit system you use or anything like that. Oh, no, it's almost freezing already this morning.
Yeah, it seems a little too early for that.
I mean, it's almost above freezing, that is. Yeah. Oh, you mean October is too early for that?
Yeah.
It's funny because there's like a bunch of tweets and stuff about this. Like, oh, come on, Colorado, are you kidding me? Like, this is too early for snow. Exactly 1 year ago, we had our first snow on October 11th. Like, this is normal. This is not surprising in any way. And then it's going to be back up to, 75 on Wednesday or whatever, right? Like, just nice and, let's see, I'm sorry, I don't know what 75 is. That's what? That's room temperature. What is that? What is that in Celsius? What's room temperature?
I don't know.
I don't know, like 20, maybe?
Something. I don't know. It's warm enough anyhow.
Okay. Well, it's time for episode like to read a piece of feedback. And this week we got this tweet from Juan de la Torre, replying to our last episode saying, "Awesome show. This is now one of my favorite CppCast episodes. Jerry's enthusiasm is contagious. You should have her back with one of the software developers to see how both hardware and software interact." And we did actually, we reached out to Jerry a couple of weeks ago, and she originally suggested that she would come on with her CTO, who would be more familiar with the SDK. But he unfortunately wasn't able to come on the day of the interview. But maybe we could do a follow-up, when they're actually starting to release the product and the SDK is maybe more available.
Yeah, I think it would make sense once the SDK is publicly available or whatever, and they're ready to go down that road or something.
Yeah, I definitely agree, though, that it was great talking to Jerry, and it was definitely a really fun episode.
Oh, yeah, super fun for me. Love talking about the old stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'd love to hear your thoughts about the show. You can always reach out to us on Facebook, Twitter, or email us at feedback@cppcast.com. And don't forget to leave us a review on iTunes or subscribe on YouTube. Joining us today is Patricia Aas. Patricia has spoken at conferences on subjects ranging from sandboxing in Chromium to vulnerabilities in C++. She has taught a range of subjects in computer science at the University of Oslo and is currently teaching Intro to C on Linux at a college in Oslo. She has a master's degree in computer science and 14 years professional experience as a programmer, most of that time programming in C++. During that time, she has worked in code bases with a high focus on security, 2 browsers, including Opera and Vivaldi, and embedded Cisco telepresence systems. Currently, she works as a trainer and consultant for the company TurtleSec, which she co-founded, which specializes in the intersection of programming and security. Patricia, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Yes, thank you for having me again.
So some of us have been following your adventures with teaching C at the university via Twitter.
Yes.
So give us a little bit of a rundown. How's that gone so far? Or how did you end up even teaching that class too? Is another question I have.
Well, actually, it was another consultant who was asked to teach it as an emergency because the actual lecturer he had a baby. It was a premature baby, so it wasn't really planned that way. And so I got 2 days notice, and they said, "Can you come and teach C in 2 days?" And I was, yeah, sure, why not? Let's give it a shot. And it's been a lot of fun. It's more fun than I thought it would be, actually. And I'm really enjoying it.
I feel like if I tried to do that, I would be like, oh, no, wait, that's C++. All right, okay. How do we do this again in C? Like, are you having any of those problems?
Well, the thing is, that's interesting that they don't know any C++. So some of them might know C++ in the future. So what I keep on doing is saying, this is how we do it in C, but when you get to C++, this is not how you're going to do it anymore. And so, but I'm also kind of trying to pull in things from because they have a little bit of Java and a little bit of JavaScript, and then trying to say, okay, so this is not like JavaScript and this is not like Java, but it is interesting to teach people that know that haven't programmed for a very long time. Like some of these people have maybe been programming for a year.
Wow.
And C is a challenge, even for experienced people. So yeah, no, it's been very interesting. And also teaching it specifically tied to platform means teaching it as like a platform programming language. And that's also interesting. So yeah, no, I'm enjoying it. I find it very interesting, but it's also very challenging.
So since it is specifically Linux, do you ever take the opportunity to be like, okay, so this is specifically Linux, but just so you know, on Windows or Mac OS, this might be different? Or do you just ignore that and stick with the Linux bit?
Yeah, I'm mostly ignoring that because it's too much complexity. It all becomes too big. But I do say that all of the operating systems kernels are basically written in C, and that C can run on all of these platforms. But we are going to focus on Linux.
Right.
So even though C is portable language, it is almost always very platform specific. So it's, yeah.
Okay. I wouldn't have taken up the challenge, just for the record. I would have been like, no.
A lot of people said that on Twitter. I got a really hard time from a lot of the C++ developers. They were not happy about me teaching C. A lot of the C devs, they were really happy though. So yeah, no, but I don't know, like, hey, they're paying me, so that's good. I like being paid.
Being paid is always nice.
Yeah, it's a feature, and I find it challenging and interesting, and I think I enjoy the teaching aspect a lot, and also you learn something in a deeper way, I think, when you teach it.
Oh, sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, as a consultant for the last 10 years, and I'm sure you appreciate this, when people ask me what kind of work that I do, I'm like, what people pay me to do.
Yes. 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 That is a central topic.
Okay, well, Patricia, we got a couple news articles to discuss. Feel free to comment on any of these, and we'll start talking more about election security and other stuff you've been working on, okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. So this first one, we have this article on Paul's dev blog, beating std visit without really trying, where he's doing a couple comparisons between C, C++, and D using comparing std visit with some of the library types that he was working on.
Yeah. And the conclusion is that D wins, basically.
Well, no, the conclusion is that C wins. And D was almost as good as C.
Right.
But C had to be, that it couldn't be generic at all. The C version was 100%, hand-coded.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was well, the thing is, at this point, hand-coded, like, the thing is, he has a point, I think. And But also, I also think that probably the compilation is going to improve over time. So it's like the C version has basically been tweaked for, like, that kind of construct has been tweaked in compilers for decades now. Yeah. So it wouldn't surprise me if it improves over time.
Yeah. My only real complaint about the article is I don't think he's beating std visit, he's beating std variant.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And just for the record, I have actually hand-rolled my own std visit that did gave me better optimizations than the ones that are available in the standard library because I needed a simpler use case. And what std visit actually is in my opinion, overly complicated because you can visit on multiple variants at once. So that makes the implementation of it like an order of magnitude more complicated than it would necessarily have to be.
So should there be a more simpler version, do you think?
I don't know. I'm guessing that I don't know. I've reached a point where I decided, you know what, maybe I'm not going to comment on what's in the standard library because the requirements that they have are so beyond what normal code has, right? I mean, standard library code has to be so defensive and so generic and so everything.
Yeah, but the thing is, sometimes I think that because the requirements are so large, the implementations become so complicated. I don't know, like somebody was joking because I had to write an exam for my students for the C class, and I started off using Catch, but basically not to give too much away, more than I gave away on Twitter already, is that I needed to know what they were writing to standard out, and I needed to feed them something in on standard in. And then I was like, okay, so how can you do that in Catch? And then somebody said you can do it in Google Test and blah, blah, blah. And it kind of just went to, you could just do it yourself. And then I was like, you know what? You're right. I could just do it myself. And so basically that's what I ended up doing. So I wrote my own, asserts, and then I did it myself. And it was kind of nice. But somebody was joking, okay, so 2 months go by and Patricia tweets, oh, so I made a testing framework. But the thing is, what I made was exactly what I needed. Whereas Catch and Google Test has like a bazillion features that I don't need. I just need these two things. So when you know your use case, you can make something that is very simple and maybe much more fully featured to your use case.
Right.
So I don't know. So I don't know. I watched Chandler's talk from CppCon.
There are no zero cost abstractions.
Yeah. And I don't know. There might be like deeper truths to that. I don't know.
It's like existential whatever here. You're like, I just don't know. Yeah.
But I think that's something that happens always. Like if you have a lot of requirements, you have to make something that can deal with all of the requirements. Yeah. And that is necessarily more complex.
I'm just thinking like it's a developer bingo here. You've already worked on a web browser, and now you're writing your own testing framework. Have you done any game engine work?
No.
Okay, well that's probably going to be next.
Well, I actually really like when I finished university, that was one of the things I wanted to do. I wanted to work in games just because I think the technology is very interesting, not because I'm like really into games. But then I spoke to people who worked in games, and yeah, so then I didn't do that.
Yeah. We have a few friends in the games industry, right, that we know from conferences and Twitter and have been on CppCast. And I would be willing to work with those specific people. Yes. That is what I know. Yeah, can we just bring those people together and we'll just make a gaming company with them?
But I don't know. I think it's an industry that just kind of developed this culture where you are feeding off of people being passionate about what they do, and knowing and crazy deadlines and weird budgeting, and because the whole thing is kind of weird. You have to invest a lot in something that might be a massive success or might be a total failure, and the deadlines are very hard, and so I can appreciate that it's a hard industry in general. It's probably much more like making a movie than it is like making a software product in general.
Yeah, it's a good comparison.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wants to continue on.
No, it's fine. Next article we have is another post from Vector of Bulls series on understanding C++ modules. I think the last post in this was at least a month ago.
That was more than longer. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this one is part 3, linkage and fragments. And I'll be honest, it's a really long post. I didn't have a chance to go through all of it, but he's going over, what it means to be importing and exporting modules, what the global module means. From what I read, it was pretty interesting so far.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add beyond that. I know that there's just a lot about modules that I have yet to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm starting to feel very much that I need to make more things because I don't feel that I know this topic well at all. I have like high hopes, but that's the problem. I should probably like lower my hopes. Well, the thing is, whenever you go like, oh, this is going to be amazing, and then you're like, oh, okay.
Well, I spent like 3 or 4 years being completely skeptical about modules because I'm like, 90% of what I do is header only out of necessity because it's all templatized.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not going to gain me anything. And then the more const expert stuff I'm doing, I'm like, well, that's even more stuff that's in headers. So I'm basically in a land where almost out of necessity, everything I write's in a header. But then I was talking to someone who knows module-y things, and they're like, oh yeah, no, that'll totally work because it'll still give you like some of the advantages of like precompiled headers and stuff using modules in that library. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess it's time for me to learn some more about it. But I'm still, like anything else, I wait until there's a solid implementation that I can play with before because I don't want to learn the wrong stuff. I want to learn what the compilers are doing. And then when I teach it, I can be like, well, this is what the spec says, but this is what the compilers actually do, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And on that note, I still wonder how much modules we're really going to see over the next, few years after C++ 20 comes out, because the STL is not going to be modularized. That's not a requirement yet.
Yeah, not until 23 probably, yeah.
Yeah.
No,
so that makes it 2025 when the average programmer will be using it probably.
Probably.
That's true. I hadn't really thought about it like that, but yeah. Wow.
That just immediately makes me feel old that I'm even talking about the year 2025.
Yeah.
Am I going to be retired by then? What year is that? I don't even know. I'll have a flying car by then.
Well, the thing is, I just recently, this is very stupid, but I just recently realized that next year is 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah. I only realized that because I have some government subcontracts that do fiscal year that starts on October 1st. And so I was signing 2020 contracts, and I'm like, what madness is this?
What would like kid me think? Like this is where we are at? Like where are all of the things? How can this be 2020? It's like the 90s with well, we have cell phones. I guess cell phones are cool.
We have cell phones, yeah.
Hey, we don't have flying cars. We don't have flying cars, but there is that guy who made an Iron Man like suit, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
We have flying cameras.
We got jetpacks. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Drones are cool.
Yeah.
Drones are
yeah.
That's true.
That's kind of like a flying car.
Yeah.
Very small flying car. The flying car.
I do. I think Kid Us would definitely be disappointed in this 2020 version. It's meh. It's like, I thought you would have gotten further. Why aren't you on Mars yet? What is up with that?
Can you place an age on Kid Us? Because I'm going to try to put myself in this.
Okay, 11.
11. So 1989 for me. I think in 1989, if you told me I had access to all the world's knowledge in my pocket anywhere I walked, anywhere in the world, I would be impressed.
That is cool.
But then there is, of course, the meme that, but basically we just use it for watching stupid cat videos anyhow. So,
which is true.
Which is true. So I guess I would be both excited and disappointed.
I definitely thought we would be on Mars by now. I definitely thought we would do all sorts of like space exploration and things like that. And
yeah, that was the height of the of the shuttle program, right?
Yeah.
Well, at least at my 11 years old.
I'm hopeful that within our lifetimes we'll still see that though.
Yeah.
Journey to Mars. Yeah.
Yeah.
Private venture. Sponsored by Tesla.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe.
It'll be Virgin Air Shuttle.
Hey, you know what? If Virgin Galactic actually takes off, I will be thrilled. I want to see the first commercial space flight, for real.
Yes.
And I want to see it get down low enough within my dad's lifetime that it would be possible for my dad to take that trip. And he's 75. So,
That would be awesome.
yeah. I mean, he's always like, my dad became an engineer because of the space race. So if it were possible
no,
for
that'd
Dad
be
to get a commercial
fabulous.
flight to space, that would be amazing. But,
Yes.
you know, what's the likelihood in the next 10 years? Don't know.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. Okay. We have two more quick
We
articles.
digressed.
Yes,
We digressed
okay.
from much else.
No,
That's fine.
it's fine.
So in yesterday's episode, for those who didn't listen to it yet, we managed to digress far enough that we did not do news at all.
Okay. This one is code analysis with Clang Tidy in Visual Studio. And yeah, there's now a checkbox to get supposed to Clang tools in Visual Studio when you're installing 2019. And you can configure Clang Tidy to do as part of the code analysis, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And if you have CMake integration, you can set it up there easily too. And this blog post will show you how to do it.
I sent a message to our friends at Clang Power Tools asking them what they thought the implication of this was for their project.
Oh.
Did not receive a comment in time for this episode, though. And I don't know if there's anything they would want to say publicly about it, but I am honestly very curious, like, because they offer other things as well.
Okay.
But
besides just Clang Tidy.
Yeah, but the fact that it's even got like built-in support with like CMake projects and stuff is pretty awesome.
Yeah. Okay, and then the last thing is just that we have a call for proposals for ACCU 2020, and it looks like the final date for that is October 25th. So if you're listening to this when it comes out, you got about a week left to get your proposal in.
Do you have yours in yet, Patricia?
Yes. Ish.
Did you submit a proposal or not?
Well, no. Well, the thing is that
when
you
is
can ask.
ACCU 2020? Is
The
this
thing
like
is, they asked me if I could hold a keynote.
Wait, is that public?
No.
Oh, well, is it okay if you just said it just now on air?
Well, it was hard because you asked me a yes or no question and I sounded really dumb.
Do you need Rob to edit it out?
I don't know. It's probably fine, I assume. Nobody told me I had to keep it a secret, so I guess it's fine.
So what we know is that you are discussing a keynote with them.
Yes.
possibility.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
cool?
Yes. So that meant yes and no, right? So
I understand. Yes, I've been invited
Yes.
to speaker conferences as well, and I did not even consider that. I'm sorry.
but yeah, no. So so that was for 2020. Yeah.
Okay. Well, congratulations on probably speaking there.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, I will be something security related and something.
The best part of being asked to speak at a conference is you have much more flexibility in what you speak about.
Yes. So they just kind of gave me like a broad like category. So something security programming things.
Grammy. Cool.
Yes.
Sorry for pushing you.
That's all right.
Okay. Well, before we talk more about security, I just wanted to bring up this tweet that I saw yesterday, Patricia, or 2 days ago, from Peter Bindles talking about the Patricia Os Award. Oh, I was wondering what that was exactly.
It was there was I don't know who made that title of that article. It's
Okay.
Yeah, because there's no such thing as a Patricia Os Award. But somebody made like the headline of the article to be like, these women got the Patricia Os Award. But basically, so the thing is that here in Norway, we've had this organization, which is supposedly for women in tech, but it has been publishing this list of like top 50 women in tech in Norway. But the thing is that the list is really just a management list. So it's a list of managers that work in tech, which I always thought was really sad because it basically, there's no, you don't shine the light on women working hands-on doing things. You basically, it's middle to top management, which, and oftentimes in the past, they're not even from a technical background. I mean, they're just like middle to top management who happen to currently work in tech, and often coming from different sectors, like from finance or from other things. So I've kind of been asking or complaining, saying that I want them to, you know, lift up women who actually do all the things, and they haven't been really interested. And so a couple of years ago, well, now it's like a year and a half ago, I guess, I started my own like Twitter account because I just wanted to follow all of these women and just see all the things they're doing, just to be inspired by them, I guess. And then but the whole idea from the beginning is that I'm going to make my own event and my own list, and I'm going to something. But then it happened again this year. They basically did the same thing, and then I got annoyed on Twitter again. I think that like somebody joked about me. Like I joked in one of my talks that I did at Euro BSD cons. I said I was annoying as a service. But then it's not only that I'm annoying as a service. That was more in the election kind of thing. But I'm also I do things based in annoyance. If I am annoyed, I might actually do something about it. So in this case, I was annoyed and I was complaining on Twitter, and then this journalist called me and I said, I will make my own event and I will do it myself, and I'm going to do it on October 8th, which is Ada Lovelace Day. And then, you know, somebody asked me, okay, so you're doing this thing? And I was like, yeah, well, I have to do now because I told the newspaper. So basically that's, so I did. So we made a mini conference where we had only female speakers. They had like 20-minute talks, one single track conference. And then at the end, we presented 25 role models that had been nominated by the community and selected by a jury. And then we presented that. So it was the idea was to basically showcase women who work in tech in different things, like all the way from people who work in academia as researchers to people who work in games to people who work as designers or testers, or so it's all sorts of different roles. It's not only in programming. And it seems awesome. A lot of people were really happy and really were missing this. So it's become like super popular amongst the whole tech industry in Norway, where men and women think this is really great. Wow. So next year will probably be even bigger. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you have to, right?
Yes.
You have to now.
Yeah, I have to now. So it became like we basically it was a free event, but we sold out in like 4 days. We've had waiting lists since 4 days after opening the registration, and so it's been. I think it was needed. I wasn't the only one that was annoyed, but I was the only one that was annoyed enough to do it.
So how many people came to your mini conference?
There was around 100 people. So men and women, like the audience was like anyone could come. It wasn't like only for women, but it was only women who were speaking. And there was like, of course, one guy who got annoyed at the thing that there was only women speaking. And I was like, oh, so you can't go to a tech conference where all of the speakers are from a different gender than you are. I see. I can see how that's difficult. Yeah. And you're in a minority in the audience as well. Yeah. Yeah, I can see how that could be hard. But it was funny because several men actually talked about that afterwards. After being there, like they went and they were there and they thought it was awesome and they felt super welcome and all of those things. But they said afterwards that it was a very strange experience for them to be in a minority in a tech conference. That was a new experience, and I think that's it's a good thing because when you feel it, then it's easier to relate when other people talk about it. So definitely we need both men and women to help make this industry more diverse, and it's not something that anybody can do by themselves.
Do you think there's some of the first-time women speakers at your conference might be submitting talks to other conferences coming up as well?
That is the goal. That is the goal. So
I didn't know if that was an explicit goal, but
oh yes, I had like multiple goals. One of the things was that I got a sponsor to pay for the recording. So we had like a professional company that did the recording and the live stream.
Oh, wow.
So we had live stream and people were watching the live stream, and then I just got all of the recordings, and I'm going to make like a YouTube channel where I'm going to post all their talks so that they can, when they submit to other conferences, that they could like provide a YouTube link. Here is me speaking at another event, which can really help when getting through like call for papers.
Oh yeah.
So that's a part of the goal, and also a part of the goal is trying to get paid, like get these women jobs and better things and interesting opportunities, and so yeah, all of that is like is a part of the secret plan.
That's I've had conversations with several people recently who want to go out on their own or publishing a book or whatever, and they're like, how do I get the word out? I'm like, well, you speak at a conference and you say, I'm looking for a job.
Yes.
And you talk. Yeah. And that goes a long way.
But it is just putting things out in the universe and people seeing you, and suddenly almost all of my work that I've had, like jobs that I've gotten since I started TurtleSec, was basically people who knew me from some other context. It's like either they've seen videos of me, they've seen me at conferences, they've worked with me in the past, they somehow and I'm not like very good at the sales part. So basically what happens is a developer in some organization thinks, you know what we need right now in this situation, we need Patricia to come in and help us. And that's basically what happens. Then they tell their boss, and then their boss calls me and goes, okay, so my developers tell me I need you.
Excellent.
So that's how I'm currently getting paid.
Okay, so it's a small conference held in Norway for Norwegians.
Well, it's for everyone, or anyone who's here, right? I'm sorry. I
was leaning towards a specific question. Sorry, I was just curious. Were the talks in English or in Norwegian?
English.
Oh. That just astounds me.
Well, it's easy for me it's easy for me to promote them to international conferences if they are in English.
Okay, that's a good point.
See, that was a part of the plan.
Right.
A part of the plan is for them to go out into the world and speak at conferences and talk about all of the things, and there were so many really interesting topics and like really different topics. Like you had one woman talking about computer forensics, one woman talking about modeling data for the health sector, and how are you going to model all of these data formats so that you can exchange health information between different vendors in healthcare, and one who was talking about 3D avatar design and making virtual reality. And so it's like all sorts of different topics.
Wow.
Yeah. So
and you said they were 20-minute talks?
Yes.
So it's almost like a full day of enhanced lightning talks or something.
Yeah.
I bet it would actually be very interesting to go to a conference like that, for real. Like, because sometimes an hour and a half talk gets a little long.
Yeah.
Right.
No, you have to know you're in the right talk if you're going to like spend an hour and a half of your life being there.
Right.
And so the good thing about especially because it's single track, there's no option. You kind of have to see it all. And then what I wanted is to give people enough time to talk a little bit about their field, but at the same time for the audience to know that, okay, this wasn't for me, but it will be over in 20 minutes.
Right.
So
Maybe
it's
like the next
fine.
talk. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's still fine. It's like, and also because I want to squeeze in as many people as possible, because it was only a half a day conference. So it started with breakfast and ended with lunch. And I wanted to have like eight speakers. So I just basically, they got no breaks. Like the audience, I feel bad for them, but they had breaks, but it was hardly any. So it was 3 talks, short break, 3 talks, short break, 2 talks, and then the list, and then lunch, and we're done.
Wow.
So it was very intense.
So you said it was free, but clearly it wasn't free to host. You already said you had a sponsor for the video, but I'm assuming someone sponsored the venue as well then?
Yeah. So it was a company that, so I basically, what I do, I ask on Twitter, I say, I need a venue. And then like 7 different companies and universities and whatnot, they said, okay, you can have it here. And so I actually could go like shopping for a venue. So I went and I visited a bunch of venues, and then I chose this one, but they were all like super nice. And then when I said like, oh, I need a thing, like I need food, then 2 companies said we could sponsor the food. And so it ended up, so Cisco did the food, Blanc as a company here in Oslo, they had the venue, NDC conferences paid for the filming.
Wow.
Yeah, so basically all just me saying, hey, I need a thing, and then somebody saying, yeah, we can do that.
So next time you chat with, one of the other people who runs a conference, like Phil or Audie, you can just be like, I don't know what your problem is. Running a conference is super easy. I just throw some stuff out there and it all gets done.
But basically it's not like a real conference, because I didn't even have a budget. Like nobody gave me any money.
Right.
I have no money. I didn't take money from anybody. Basically, I just said I need a thing, and then people would just buy it for me. Which means I don't even there's not even an official organization or anything, because there's no money involved. I just did all the organization and the web page and stuff. And then I said on Twitter, I need help because the web thing is too much. And then some guy in Trondheim said, I do web. And I was like, yeah, okay, could you help me? And he's been fantastic. His name is Marcus, and he's been absolutely fantastic. I just kind of write to him on Slack saying, I need a thing, and then he just sends me a pull request or just push it straight to production. So it's like, it's magic.
Wow. So
I don't know. Yeah?
I'm sorry, but to get back to Rob's original question, what was the actual name of the award? If it wasn't the Patricia Os Award.
It was Tech Role Models 2019.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And it does say so in the article. It just doesn't say that in the headline.
Yeah.
So, but yes, yeah. So I found that a little bit embarrassing. The headline was a little bit yeah, I'm going to make an award and I'm going to name it after myself. It's just, you can wait until I'm dead or something, then you can do that.
Well, that is generally how those things go, right? If it
Yeah.
continues for the next 30, 40 years and then you die, then it'll be renamed after you, I guess.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. So can you tell us more about the NDC talk you gave on election security? You want to start off on that?
Yeah. Well,
how'd you get interested in election security?
Well, it was an accident. Well, again, it was way back when in 2005. Well, actually, probably 2004. Because I needed to do a master's thesis, and I didn't really want to do it because that meant I would probably sit around just writing for 6 months at least, and I wanted to do programming. So, and that became, I guess, a bunch of the professors knew that Patricia didn't want to write a thesis. And so they kept on like trying to sell me a thesis, but I didn't want it. And then one of the professors, he came to me and he's like, Patricia, I have a thesis for you. And I'm like, yeah, sure. And then he goes like, you get to program. And I'm like, okay, so what is it? So basically that's how so then he later explains that they needed to make a prototype of the Norwegian election system with all of the different subsystems like the voter rolls and internet voting, a voting client, all sorts of parts of the system. So like an election system usually is a distributed system that involves many different kinds of systems. You have the system that where the parties put in their candidates and stuff like that, and you have where they print the ballots, and so there's generally many systems involved. And they wanted me to make a prototype of this distributed system and then test a standard protocol for transferring election information between different systems in an election system, which is called EML, which is Election Markup Language. And so basically they just wanted me to see if you could follow Norwegian election laws and regulations and still be able to transmit everything that you needed using this, which was an XML schema-based thing.
Right.
Yeah. So then I had to read all the laws and regulations, and then I had to make the system, and that was my thesis, and I got an A. So and I got so I was happy. But I hadn't really thought about elections before then. But I basically came to the conclusion that it is very difficult to make an election system where the population can be assured that the result is correct, and that this is something that people have been working with election security, not election computer security, but just election security in general, for centuries, have been working on this problem, like because you have the government that is running the election is also a party in the election. So how can you make sure that they are not interfering in the election? How can the population be assured that things are counted and reported correctly? And it's a problem of a system where you can't trust anyone, and it's so it's kind of complicated. But people keep like. So I keep on explaining and having these like long threads where I try to explain things on Twitter because I've been having a thing with the Norwegian government for
I've
2
seen
years.
some of your thing with the Norwegian government on Twitter.
Yeah, but so I've been it's I'm annoying as a service again. But I wanted to finally explain why it's difficult. Because that is one of the things that people don't understand. Why is this so hard? And so the talk is basically like an introduction to election security as a concept, and why this is so much harder than you think. Because so I start off in the talk saying, is an election system very hard? And I was like, no, I wrote a prototype of the whole election system, including internet voting, in just a few weeks. The thing is that in my thesis, in my abstract, it says, ignoring security and anonymity. Here is a full prototype. But the thing is, the moment you bring in security and anonymity and some kind of way of auditing the election result, then the problem becomes extremely hard. And right. So I want to bring up the baseline of tech people to a certain point where they realize the complexity of the problem, because if not, we keep on having the same discussions over and over and over again without actually getting any further. And so I hope it's a song. So now it's like if somebody end up in one of those threads, I go like, okay, go watch my talk and then come back and then we'll have a talk.
It's all part of your larger plan.
Yes. See, it's to compress time. It's like, go watch the talk, come back, then you understand where I'm coming from. Now we can have a discussion on like a different level. So hopefully. And also it was a way of speaking to the government as well, because they're having an issue understanding the problem as well. So hopefully the right people have seen it. I hope.
Hopefully.
Yeah. I did watch your talk. I thought it was really good. One of the concepts I had not heard of before was software independence. I was wondering if you could maybe talk about that.
Yeah, no, that has become sort of like the core ideal of election security globally amongst people who work in this field. And it is the idea that you have to have a way to assure the correctness of the result in a way that is independent of software, independent of hardware as well. The idea is that as human beings, we have to have some kind of independent way to assure that the result is correct. So in the U.S., what they are trying to achieve, and some states are getting there, and some have been doing experiments, is doing what they call a risk limiting audit, and that's a manual process where they are doing. It's a statistical model for picking certain ballots. And I kind of explained it in the talk, but like if you have like a room of 100
Rob,
people.
you could have saved an hour here if you had just listened. No, I'm just kidding.
But if you have but let's say that you have 100 people in the room, right? And they've done a secret ballot, and then somebody counts up the results, and then you say, okay, well, 90 people elected this cat here, so the cat is president. This is the president now. But then you're like, but then you're like maybe one, like you didn't vote for the cat, you voted for this little thing. I'm not exactly sure what it is. Let's say it's a rabbit. Let's say the rabbit, a bunny rabbit. So you voted for the bunny rabbit, and you thought like other people would also vote for the bunny rabbit because the bunny rabbit is much nicer than the cat. And then you're skeptical to this result. Like, is the result actually correct? And what you can do is to just pick like 10 people at random and ask them what they voted. In this case, you will actually look at their ballots. Just pick 10 ballots at random, look at the ballots. And then if 70% of the 10 ballots you pick at random are for the bunny, then this did not confirm the result. And so you're going, that looks fishy. I'm going to take 10 more ballots. And so that's how it works. So basically in a risk limiting audit, the hope is that if the result is correct, you'd only have to check a few ballots. Like it's a relatively small number. But if it doesn't pan out, like it doesn't seem likely that the result is correct, then you just pick more and more ballots. And in the end, it can end up being a full manual recount. So it's basically a process to have a manual process that regular people can do, that you don't have to have a PhD to do. Just people in the population that are not in the government, that are not in the race, that can be monitored by other people to make sure they're doing the right thing. Can do something to assure that the result is correct. So in the U.S., that's what they're hoping to do more and more. But to do that, you have to have paper ballots. So you need physical ballots that can be read by human beings. And then you have to train people to do this process. But it's quite simple because it's basically picking out ballots at random and then comparing them using the statistical model, which is pre-made. So, but in Norway, what I managed, it sounds like, but after Patricia was annoying as a service for a long time, they changed the law in Norway, or the election regulation in Norway. So this year was the first year where they have 2 counts in Norway, and the first count is now manual in Norway. So that's been very interesting. to see the differences in the results between because we also have like a scanning system where they scan and count ballots.
Right.
And so we're looking at the differences between those all over Norway. But it's also been a problem, like how are you going to get the data? How are you going to check that the data is correct? How are they dealing with differences? Like if they find something, how do they deal with it? And what we're seeing is that they don't know what to do. They have differences between the manual count and the machine count, and they don't know what to do about that problem. So that's going to be probably the next part we have to deal with. We have to have some kind of way of dealing with it if something happens. But that's also a problem in the U.S. Election security experts in the U.S. They don't think today that the election system can recover if you have a real manipulation of elections in the U.S. It's too big, it's too complicated, it's too expensive. They don't know if you can ever do an actual new election if it turns out an election was manipulated. And that's a problem.
And you're saying if the results of the election were manipulated, to be clear. Because I think we all agree that through targeted advertising and such, elections have been manipulated.
Yes.
Sure.
But in this case, it's basically if you turn out, like if someone gets elected that wasn't actually elected by the population,
right?
Then that's something that is they don't think you can recover today.
I mean, as you know, every state has their own laws, has their own things differently. In Colorado, we have some of the highest voter turnout of anywhere in the country because the default is that a paper ballot is mailed to you.
Yes.
You fill in the bubbles and then drop them off at a secure box. So there is some sort of a paper trail. And
I think Colorado, if I remember correctly, is one of the states that have been doing risk limiting audits.
And I have no idea.
For a few elections, I think. But they have this mail-in ballot thing, and that has other risk models to it, of course. Especially things of being influenced by family and employers to vote a certain way.
Right.
But I mean, you kind of have to decide what works. If you have a very dispersed population, then it might be very difficult to have them come to any kind of place to do their voting.
And there's the flip side that with the mail-in ballots, there can't be any intimidation at the polling place as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
So it's hard because the moment you nobody is watching you when you are doing, like, you're filling in the ballot and you are nailing it, then suddenly maybe you can actually prove to somebody that you are voting the right way, like that they think is the right way. And that means both intimidation might work, but also that vote selling is possible because now you can prove that you voted in the way that you got paid to vote. So,
right.
Yeah. But there's so many different vectors for attacking elections. And it's hard to do anything that is going to be perfect. And currently, just because you have a paper ballot, and I do believe you're doing risk limiting audits, you're basically ahead of everybody else anyway. So, so it's like there are other
when we first moved here, we did electronic machines, right?
Yeah.
And you would punch in your answers, and then it would print out a physical paper receipt for you to look at, but that receipt went into a secured box. Mm-hmm. So you could confirm, yes, this receipt is what I voted for, hit OK, and then, or you could cancel it and start over, and then that would go into a secure box, which I thought was an interesting way of managing things as well. But I'm sure it has other attack vectors, yes.
Yeah, the problem is that they've done studies and most people don't check.
Oh, I totally did. Like, I don't trust this software. I know how software is written.
But that's the thing, though. We don't trust software, but regular people trust software.
Yeah.
Regular people think, why can't I? Like I had a guy tell me on Twitter, which I thought was an excellent question. He said, I don't understand. I trust my bank to handle my money. Why can't I trust a computer to handle my vote?
I don't know if I trust my bank. I mean, let's be clear. I don't have a can in the backyard, right? But I do look at the transactions in my account to make sure that they are the ones I expect.
And that is the thing. There is transparency. You have a way to check. You have a way to check that it's right. And also there's a lot of regulatory oversight. And also the bank is by law responsible for your money. They can't just take your money and go. And so you have lots of other things around, which is what is guaranteeing the system. But with your vote, the whole point for vote anonymity is that the moment it leaves your hand, you have no idea where it goes anymore. And so you lose track of it, and you have to trust that what happens after it leaves your hand, it's handled correctly. And that system is managed by a party in the election. So somebody who has a vested interest in the result is the one that is handling the process.
Right.
And so, so it's complicated.
Yeah.
I don't know what Rob was getting ready to say, but I feel like we're running short on time.
Yeah.
And I was kind of curious because you also talked in your talk about some interesting software bugs that have occurred in the counting process. And I'm not suggesting that you go into those, but I'm just saying, just what are the takeaways for us as software developers? What should I be thinking about when I'm writing software? Like, how does this influence my life, or does it?
I think one of the things that when thinking about how we are leaving a lot of our lives to computers and to software, and we are trusting that the answers and what is giving back are relatively correct. But what we are seeing in a lot of malware that has been deployed in many different ways is that the malware is manipulating that reality. And that could be something like, if you have a malware on a regular Windows machine, it might be manipulating the loggings. So it might be erasing traces of itself or making it look like something else, or spewing lots of random things into the log that has nothing to do with what it's actually doing. And you saw the one that I talked about in my talk in Stuxnet, it was attacking an embedded component in these turbines. But the first part of the attack was basically just sitting there and recording normal data.
Right.
So it was just this is the normal data that it will produce, and then when it started its attack, it replayed normal data. So it was feeding all of the monitoring systems and all the people who were looking at the systems. For them, everything looked fine, and they didn't understand why these machines were physically failing, because these were turbines, so they were spinning really fast, and so they broke basically, and they didn't understand why that was occurring, because all of the data they were seeing was fine. And so I guess what I think is, as we move to a world where, let's say, medical processes are more and more in software, we need some way for people still to be able to confirm the results they're seeing independently of the machines. We need some way to, like, if you're using an electronic thermometer, that you can still put a hand on somebody's face and say, okay, this thing says you're having a fever, but you definitely have a fever, right? And so we know in this business that we have bugs. We know that even if it's not malicious, we make things that make mistakes. And you saw in the Boeing, the Max, what was it called?
737 Max, yeah.
Yeah, where you had you had this problem that a sensor was failing, but there was no way to independently, as a human being, actually figure out what was going on. They weren't like, it was a feature that you could buy as an extra feature to have it into your UI so that you can actually say, okay, this sensor says this, but this sensor says something else. And if you didn't buy the feature, then you didn't get that. And then as a human being, you couldn't actually make an independent judgment. And I think we have to think about that sometimes. Like, how can we bring the human being into the loop more,
Right.
to be able to make some judgments that are complicated and important. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Sure.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, well, it's been great having you on the show again, Patricia. Where can people find you online or learn more about your consulting company? We haven't really mentioned that, but if you want to, I guess, plug yourself, go ahead.
Well, I'm mostly active on Twitter, so at Pati Gallardo, like Gallardo, like the car, like the Lamborghini. And so please, just my DMs are open, so feel free to say hi. My company is called TurtleSec. It's the address is turtlesec.no. And yeah, but if you need somebody to help you with security / programming, then please let me know.
And perhaps just as an aside, if you contact, don't just say hi, this is so-and-so, this is why I'm contacting you. Because sometimes just a plain hi DM on Twitter, you're like, that's weird.
Yes. and that happens a lot. So, and the thing is, for me, it happens a lot with accounts where they have like a little bit, they have like a name and then they have like a 10-digit number after, and no tweets. And then I block basically immediately. So if you come into my DMs, just say, hi, my name is blah. I'm contacting you because of something. It's sort of like if you're going to call a stranger on a phone.
Right. You don't just say hi.
Yeah, it's just weird. You say, hi, this is blah, blah, blah. I'm calling you because it's just normal. So definitely, yes. I don't mind strangers like hitting me up in my DMs, but just pretend you're calling a stranger and we'll be fine.
Okay. Thanks, Patricia.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on.